the privilege, many of us on the team have had the privilege in the last several years to travel globally, and we're realizing that there's how many of you know there's a lot of hopelessness out there? And we travel places, and we just came back from a couple of countries, and I think that there's a sense of despair, there's a sense of hopelessness, there's a sense that things are getting worse and worse, and it's really easy to be infected and affected by that mindset. And I'd like to propose to you, first of all, let's just be real. There are some things that are not going well. So I want you to understand that I know that I understand that there are things that are going wrong, and there are things that are getting worse, and that there's all those kind of things. There's also lots of things that are getting better. The kingdom is expanding, the one I live in. The kingdom I'm living in is getting better, and it's expanding. Well, let me say this. The kingdom that I live in doesn't need to get better, but it is expanding. And in Isaiah 9, verse 6 and 7, I think the apostle Paul Manwaring wrote this verse, I'm pretty sure. At least he claims near authorship for it. There shall be no end to the increase of his government or of peace. And then it goes on to say, the zeal of the Lord shall accomplish this. And so I think it's really easy to get under this spirit where you're looking for what's wrong instead of what's right. And I'm not just talking about being optimistic, by the way. How many know that optimism that isn't based in faith is just a mindset? And I'd rather you have a good mindset than be negative. But how many know that optimism that's not rooted in God is just humanism? And so I'm not talking about like looking out and seeing bad things and going, it's all going to work out. I'm talking about seeing the world through the eyes of God and having faith for our world. And so I feel strongly like the Lord is asking us a question. Can these bones live? And Ezekiel really was in a valley of dry bones, so I don't think it's a metaphor. But you'll notice that the message of the valley of the dry bones was actually, when those dry bones became a mighty army, they actually were a message to Ezekiel. And the message really was, this is what I'm doing in Israel. I'm taking what you say is dry bones, and I am making it a mighty army. In other words, God's saying, I'm going to do what you can't do. I am doing the impossible in your nation. And I have the deepest sense that God, if God could get people to believe that he actually is more powerful than a $13 trillion debt in our country, and immorality, and homosexuality, and every other ality, if he could actually convince us that he's bigger than sin, if he could actually convince us of it, we would actually lose the spirit of despair and gain a sense of hope. Because I think that despair is floating in the air of, this is bigger than God. This debt is bigger than God. And this immorality is bigger than God, and they're pushing God out of our school system, and they're pushing God out of our government. And first of all, I want to tell you something, like, you can vote God out, but he's not going to leave. He's not going to leave. So I understand what we mean by that, and by the way, I'm totally into, we need God in the school system, we need God in government, and I understand all that. But do you understand, because I make a rule, no God here. God doesn't go, okay, well, I'll listen to the unbelievers instead of the believers who are praying. So sometimes I don't know if we actually believe our own prayers. So some unbeliever, signs a thing, and they go, well, we go, well, God, they made a decree, you can't come in here. And God goes, okay. And then he says, pray as it is on earth, that it will be in heaven. Oh, is that how, did you get what I just said? I think it says that we're supposed to pray that it would be on earth as it is in heaven. Not that it would be in heaven as it is on earth. So I don't think, I think that we end up with self-fulfilled prophecies because we're like, God got voted out of school. God can't come to school anymore. The separation of church and state. Well, you can separate the church from the state, but you can't separate God from the people. People like, you shouldn't bring religion into politics. I'm not. I'm bringing Jesus. I can't separate him because he's like with me wherever I go. Just need to leave Jesus out there. I don't really know how to do that. I'd like to keep the rules. But, you know, the struggle is, he said, I'll always be with you. I'm like, Jesus, you're not supposed to be with me right now. If you could just stay out there, that would work for us all. And don't bring religion in here. I'm not bringing the mind of Christ. Well, don't bring that. Well, if he took that out, I would, you know, trust me, you don't want to see the other one I used to have, right? You feel that way too? You're like, this is an improvement. If you don't like this, you should have seen what it was like before I got this.